It's exactly like the bear.
Exactly.
The bear is just Mighty Ducks in a kitchen.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kayla.
And I'm Pete, and welcome to How I Hobby.
We're two pals and hobby obsessives with over 100 hobbies between us.
And we're always on the lookout for more.
Join us as we talk about all of our hobbies.
And talk to people we know about their really cool hobbies.
Welcome to How I Hobby. In today's episode, we've got a great interview with Kelsey Mulvey, who has a really tasty hobby. But first, Kayla, how do you hobby?
Well, Pete, I play basketball.
No way.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Well, you are tall enough.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. And considering the height of the people that I played with, I was the tallest one. So I was center. You know much about basketball.
I know nothing about basketball.
So I was center, which is like the person who stays closest to the hoop.
Oh, you're the glory position then.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
the most celebrated, but sure. Yeah, I play. So again, like this is one of those things where I played basketball competitively. It was a hobby of mine as a teenager.
Right.
I played competitively from like the 8th grade all through high school. And on the weekends when I was in the 8th grade, we used to play in smaller towns in Ontario, and so we'd kind of drive out 4 or 5 hours away and play against teams who very clearly practiced way more often than we did.
Was that organised, or did you just roll up in these towns and like sort of get out and just say,
It was organized. It was like, I think we played like AA basketball. I can't remember the rating exactly, but it was...
This means nothing to me.
Yeah, it was like a decently high kind of competitive caliber.
Okay.
And then in high school, I played on our high school team, and we played against other schools in the area. But it was really fun. And like my favorite part about playing basketball was actually not the strategy involved in the game, not the running up and down the court, but like I loved being part of a team.
Really?
I loved it. I loved it so much.
Interesting.
And like it was like the energy of the team, and everyone like pumped as a team, and like the highs and lows of a team. And
I can see you getting into this.
Yeah, and like in the spirit of like Mighty Ducks, like, you know, ducks fly together. It's like my favorite. It's my favorite expression. Quack, quack, quack.
What's happening?
If you haven't seen Mighty Ducks, the movie, then none of
I've seen enough of it to know that it's essentially it's
a hockey team.
It's a sports movie. Can this ragtag bunch of nobodies make it to the big leagues?
Correct. And the whole like motto is ducks fly together.
Right.
And then their chant is quack, quack, quack. So I've just referenced all these things that meant nothing to you, but
I
hopefully
wonder how much of this is going to stay in.
I hope all of it does. Anyway, in the spirit of the Mighty Ducks fly together. It's the teamwork was my favorite part of playing basketball. And it's one of the things that I've noticed as I've gotten older. Loads of my hobbies, whether they're athletic hobbies, whether they're creative hobbies, it's sort of morphed from this team orientation, right? Improv is another hobby that I talked about on season 1. That's very much team based.
Yeah.
And then a lot of my hobbies have now morphed into sort of from group orientation to individualistic, which I don't know. I don't know what that is a reflection of. Is it age? Is it maturity? I have no idea. But it's an interesting observation that I've made. It's one of the things I loved about playing basketball was being on the team. And then I think about the current athletic hobbies that I have right now. And, 3/4 of them are things that I do by myself. So an interesting observation. Basketball was a hoot. I haven't played in ages.
Yeah.
But I did pick up a ball maybe about a year ago. A friend of mine brought a basketball to my neighborhood. We found a court and we were
still got it?
Shooting hoops. I do. Yeah, it was fun. It was really, really fun.
Cool.
It was a good time.
Excellent. On that note, on to our episode.
Woohoo!
Kelsey Mulvey is a lifestyle and interior design journalist. She has written for Forbes, New York Magazine, and the Wall Street Journal. Ooh. She lives in San Francisco with her husband and a lot of candles. Kelsey, how do you hobby?
My hobby is cooking.
Cool!
Delicious.
Amazing. Kelsey, so tell us, how did you get into cooking?
It has been a journey. I always really liked baking, cooking not so much. My husband has very distinct memories of us first dating and me trying to make the most al dente, like rock solid pasta. So it's been a journey. When COVID hit, I, like everyone else, was panic fleeing to the grocery store and just kind of picking up whatever I could out of, survival. I ended up picking up this really expensive whole chicken and thinking, okay, well, what do we do with this? So I started with a big whole chicken. It was pretty good. And then I kept going during COVID, who wants to wipe down food containers with Clorox? So I started cooking a lot more. And maybe about 2 or so years ago, I got so bored with everything that I was cooking. You could only make a whole chicken so many times a month until it becomes very, very boring.
Yeah.
So I lately have been doing a challenge where I've tried to make at least one new recipe every single week. And it has been very fun and very delicious.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Excellent.
How many weeks has this been going on for, this whole new experimentation?
Goodness, I started this December 2022 and it's now April 2024. So over a year.
Yeah.
It's been fun. This week I made a pasta with zucchini and onion and ricotta. It was fabulous, and some pesto. I also made a shrimp stir fry, which was really good, and even better the second day for leftovers. So it was a great time.
Good tip. Excellent. That is awesome. It's really interesting. You're one of a lot of people who've taken up hobbies during COVID. I think it's been a real kick for people to just we need to do something with this time. And it's very interesting you've taken up partly because the health things, if you're cooking it, so you know where it's coming from, you know what's in it. That is a very strange question, which I will almost certainly edit out.
I've got a new question,
please.
So Kelsey, you've been cooking one new recipe a week. Have you been sticking with? Are you like a diehard Alison Roman fan? Are you is it a variety of different recipes and different recipe creators? Or are you are you Julia Childs only?
Fabulous question. I am a big devotee to the New York Times cooking app, where there's a bunch of different creators, a bunch of different recipe developers. The app is incredibly easy to use. You can really sift by, dietary restrictions. I always like to go for the recipes that are quote unquote easy. I'm not going to be making something for 8 hours in the kitchen. I don't have that time, but I try to do things that are, relatively healthy, easy. And it's great that you can really save recipes, and then you can rate them, and you can put them in your little digital recipe box and make notes based on your experience and any pointers. So would highly recommend that app. It's a great entry point.
Okay, so do you have a promo code for us and our listeners? Is this an affiliate ad? Because it was a really good one.
No.
It's interesting you said that you were a very, very confident and keen baker, but had never done cooking. And I've seen this a lot with people who say, I bake a lot, but I would never do cooking. Or people say, I love cooking, but I could never do baking. How do you feel that baking and cooking are different things?
Yeah.
And why is it that way? How do you how do you approach them differently?
Well, I think with cooking, let's say we're making cookies or we're making cake. There's a certain consistency you're going to have. So you're going to have, there's going to be really frequent key ingredients, your eggs, your butter, your sugar, your flour. Maybe you have some milk or an extract in there. And then once you have that foundation, honestly, what I would do is just add a bunch of stuff. Okay, caramel sounds good. What about some cinnamon? Sure, why not? And it's as long as you have that foundation, you can really do whatever you want with the flavors. Now, cooking's different because we're not just focusing on one foundation, and you're focusing with, meat and seafood and poultry. And you obviously want to be super, super careful about how you cook that, because that could be a dinner party fail waiting to happen. And you also need to understand, okay, when you're cooking vegetables, some things take longer times to cook. So there's just a lot more to learn and a lot more room for error, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, have you had any disasters in the kitchen?
I'm sure that I have, but there hasn't been anything catastrophic. I think
no one's died,
or no one's been sitting on the floor crying because everything got burned.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I will say my parents came into town for Thanksgiving, and I was like, you know what? This is my time to shine. I'm going to, put up my app. I'm going to find all these recipes. And I think for Thanksgiving, when there's so many things, obviously in the UK, it's not as, common but it's a feast, it's like a Sunday roast times 50. So I think the timing on some things got a little messy. I know that mashed potatoes didn't really turn out the way that I wanted, but you know what? It's kind of like improv where, something goes wrong or something's not going fast enough, and you kind of have to think on your feet and think, okay, well, how can I save this?
Yeah.
And you yes and we're getting a takeaway.
I love all these improv references in this episode, which is hilarious because we talked about improv in season 1 of the pod. That's amazing. Kelsey, what would you say is your favorite thing about cooking as a hobby?
Great question. I would have to say, as a freelance journalist, my days are really packed. I'm juggling multiple deadlines. It's admin work, it's pitching, it's, interviews, phone calls. My days are very, very busy. And I love what I do, but very busy. And what I love about cooking is it's just time to take a breath. And it's just something to do that I do by myself. My husband knows, like, do not help me. I'll put on a podcast, I'll put on some music, and I can just kind of take a beat and enjoy. And I think, as a journalist, I definitely skew a little bit more left-brained, and I would say I'm inherently a creative person. And it's a great way to flex that muscle in a different manner. And also, it's really yummy. So who are we kidding?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you get to eat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because so how obviously we found each other, or we being me and Pete found you, was an article you wrote for Apartment Therapy. You wrote, cooking, it's transformed what I used to view as a chore into a self-care moment. And I absolutely, I loved that because I think, like, you talk about the meditative side of it. You talk about not wanting to be bothered while you're doing this hobby. Like, it's such a wonderful solo time to think and do and kind of be in a routine. I love it. It's so cool.
Okay, I asked you about a disaster. That's very, very negative. What's the best thing you've made?
I mean, I feel very lucky that I think I've made some good things. And whenever we eat, I always ask my husband, like, how would you rate this? Would you want this again? And, a lot of times he's like, yeah. I think probably one of my favorite things that I've made is this miso glazed chicken thighs.
Yum.
I know. It's like honey, I think butter, something else, miso paste, obviously. And it takes a little bit of time. It probably takes maybe 15 minutes to cook in the kitchen, but it's an overall easy recipe. And we've had it, probably at least 10 times at this point. It's a fun take on chicken. I mean, we definitely love some spice and flavor in this household. So it's pairs really well with, just simple broccoli or some kind of vegetable.
Lovely stuff. Can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. Do you know, I found that because I love cooking, but I found that I actually, since turning vegetarian, I've loved it even more because if you've got some chicken and you fry it up, it's going to taste awesome because it's chicken. But if you've got a bunch of lentils, you've got to really put some imagination into it to make those taste good. And so I really love the creativity of it, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I'm wondering, Kelsey, do you have a favorite ingredient, a go-to? Maybe it's like a hidden secret weapon, or something that you go to like add some zhuzh.
Some zhuzh.
Some zhuzh.
Some vavaboom. Some je ne sais pas. Je ne sais pas. Some je ne sais quoi. Je ne sais pas pourquoi. Sorry, Kylie Minogue there for you. And carry on.
I love garlic. I'm a big garlic person, but I don't like cutting garlic because it just feels like too much time.
Yeah.
So I'll buy a big jar of minced garlic from the grocery store. And then whenever anything calls for garlic, I'm like, well, there you go. Like, put a couple spoons in there.
Yeah.
My husband, he loves spice. So I'll often put some like a chili crisp or some kind of chili paste in a lot of things. So he's happy and we're both happy and everything's spicy and it's great.
Oh, yum.
Awesome.
Garlic and chili. Do you have a favorite, a go-to?
No, but I do agree with Kelsey on the garlic front.
Okay.
For clove, read bulb. Yeah.
I'm really into Baharat spice. That's my new vibe.
Baharat spice?
Yeah.
That sounds like a genre of house music.
Have you had Baharat spice?
No, I don't think so. Not in my cooking experience.
Have you, or like Raz Al Hanout? Have you used?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like a cardamom, cinnamon, Middle Eastern spice. It's real yum. Yeah, it's real yum.
We went to Morocco last year, and I feel like we had a lot of that, like cardamom-y, like cinnamon-y. I think we had a coffee very similar to like what you're describing, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So I feel like personal consumption, yes, but cooking, no.
Okay, cool. I also love garlic, just to be inclusive. I also love garlic.
Excellent.
I'm raising my hand. I love garlic.
Yes. Garlic. We stand garlic here on How I
We're
Hobby.
team garlic over here.
Team garlic.
Exactly. Yeah. So you mentioned Thanksgiving, and they say it's a huge, family and friends event, which is really, really lovely, and people being brought together, and all that. But I also wondered, has like your cooking, has that been passed down through your family as well? Have you had recipes from, from your parents or grandparents or aunts and uncles or whatever?
I like that question.
Yes, many. Actually, I got married about 6 months ago. Woo! And for my husband's family and my family, a lot of them, culled together their favorite recipes and, gave them to us, whether it was in a book, whether it was in little recipe cards with the recipe box I have at home.
Oh, it's adorable.
So
nice. I love it.
My favorite, I will say, and the one that I do all the time is my mom's recipe. It's a dill dip. And you put about half sour cream, half mayo, mix it together. You put a lot of, like minced or like dill wheat in it, a lot. And then some minced dried onion. And it's the most amazing thing. It's addictive.
Sounds great.
Salivating. Love it. Whenever we have parties and whenever we host in this household, everyone has the dip. And a lot of my friends, whenever we're going to a party, they say, well, can you bring your mom's dip? And I always do.
Oh my God, that's really nice.
I love it.
The dip is so profound.
It's just one of the magical things about food that is And
it's also really nice because like your mom gets to come with you, she's at the dinner party too. Yeah, that's really special.
In dip form, yeah.
In dip form.
Do you have any family recipes?
Yeah, there's a few my grandma has given me, particularly like certain kind of holidays throughout the year.
Oh, nice.
And so I've recreated them a few times and have like called her and FaceTimed her.
Yeah.
Not knowing if the brisket was done and can she look at it over FaceTime. And, so yeah, I've made quite a few things from her.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Okay, quick one. What is the most important kitchen utensil or appliance?
Good question.
Thank you.
Wow, this is the important stuff.
Ooh, I think a really good pan.
Okay.
I think a really good pan is something that doesn't stick.
Yeah.
Something that's easy to clean.
Yeah.
Something that's large enough to hold all of your stuff. I have tried so many different pans. Some are expensive and fancy, but the best one that I have is one that I think was like $40 compared to, like the $100+ someone could spend on a pan. It has remained nonstick for years. It is so big. I love it. Whenever it is dirty, I get so sad. So I always make sure to clean it every night because I just love it so much. So I think a really good pan just makes your life easier.
Oh, that's lovely. That. So on that topic, what completely outlandish kitchen utensil or device or machine would you love to have in your kitchen?
Ooh.
I mean, it has to be something like totally out there, like an electric, like brisket carver or something like that. Something that is very frivolous. But I feel like the great thing about cooking is I don't really think that you need to have all this amazing technology. Like get some good knives, okay? Like a microplaner, like a zester or something that makes your life a lot easier. Like a food processor, those things help, but you really don't need that much. And I think that, from a cost perspective, when you do cook at home, the amount of money that you can save versus ordering takeout every single night. And this idea of, you can really work with what you have. Yeah. Maybe there's like a really fancy knife or like a nice cutting board you want, but you don't need anything too crazy.
No,
yeah.
I got into the habit of making sure I don't just buy a thing because I think it's cool and because it'd be a good thing to cook with or cook a particular dish. It's like, well, I'll try and cook this dish a few times with what I already have at home. Mm-hmm. And then if I could do it, then that's great. But if it's like, I really do actually kind of need this thing and I am going to cook this dish a few times, then I should probably get this thing.
The accessibility of it, which is one of the interesting things that I'm hearing from both of you.
You can make do with...
Yeah.
But in my dream world, I just thought of exactly what I want, but it's not so much a buy, it's more of a home renovation process.
Sure. Go on.
I would love to have one of those, we see them a lot in the States, the pot fillers that are along an oven where you can just, turn on this little knob and you can have this nice hot water. That's what I want. And my husband knows this too well, where whenever we're looking at real estate, I'm like, but there's no pot filler. And he's like, Kelsey, get over it.
Yes. It's really impressive. It's right on top of the stove.
Right.
So you don't have to like schlep the pot to underneath the sink to fill it up. It's right on top of the stove.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's epic.
That sounds brilliant.
Yeah.
Kelsey, we want to ask you our favourite question.
It's our favourite question.
Which is, what has your hobby of cooking taught you about yourself and life?
I think what cooking has taught me is, we've been kind of referencing this a little bit during our conversation, but this idea of going with the flow, because sometimes you are cooking something something's not creaming, something's not going, and you think, okay, like I have to think on my feet and I have to problem solve. So I think there's this really beautiful notion of problem solving that's so great in terms of cooking. And I think also in terms of life, right? Because stuff hits the fan, nothing goes according to plan, but you have to think on your feet and also make the best of the situation, which I think that I am good at doing overall, but it's really fun to be able to put that in a very tangible hobby. And then I think also just food is meant to be enjoyed. You know, people connect over food. Belly laughs happen over a great meal. You know, great vulnerable conversations happen over food. We love hosting in this household. So I also love how food has been a vehicle for connecting and bringing people together. And that's something that I so value. And whether it's me and my husband sitting on the couch, like about to watch TV, having something I made, or we're having a dinner party, or we're having kind of half-assed potatoes on Thanksgiving, or a big party with a bunch of different apps. It's just been so great to use food as a way to connect.
I love it.
That's so nice.
Absolutely great.
Okay, Kelsey, you have 30 seconds to convince our listeners to try your hobby. Go.
Well, it's really yummy. And also it's fun. You get to learn a little bit more about different cultures, different cuisines. The results are going to be good no matter how you do it. Just make sure you cook your meats well, but why not try something different and put on a podcast like I do, maybe this one, and enjoy.
Yeah. I love that.
Fantastic.
Okay. What I loved about this, great plug for How I Hobby. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. I love that you've only started this hobby properly in like 2022. I think that is so impressive. And like, you've really stuck to it, right? Because you've stuck to this as a weekly tradition. You've dug deep to the point where you wrote a whole friggin' article about it, and like how it's kind of manifested into this just business as usual for your lifestyle. Yeah. And I also love like how, I mean, I just think improv applies to everything in life.
Of course you do.
So
of course you do.
Every time I hear anyone talk about improv, like it is so true. Just sort of rolling with the punches, the problem solving on the spot, and nothing is too severe unless it's undercooked meat. That is very dangerous, as you mentioned.
Yes.
And I also really like this piece about this is a hobby that is accessible. It has low barriers to entry. Mm-hmm. And I think relative to like how, you know, Pete and I, pretty much every episode we talk about where the particular hobby of our guest kind of sits on this spectrum of like triangulation or hexagon, whatever, what we talked about on a different episode.
Sort of polygon we got.
It was in a hive-like formation recently. But the perspective that you're bringing about this hobby is the kind of collective element of it bringing people together. And that, like you said, food is a vehicle for bringing people together as this gathering thing. So this is like artistic, it's meditative, it's all these things for you. And the big kind of force driving it is that it's bringing people together. And I think that is really special. Yeah. So thank you.
I was just going to say, I think it's really cool to commit almost to a hobby and challenge yourself. You know, no one was telling me you have to cook one recipe a week. No one was saying, my husband was like, if you don't want to do this anymore. And I was like, no, but this is fun. And it's been a fun way to challenge myself and push myself and really stick to something. And that there's a big reward in whether you are a avid hobbyist or you're trying to find a hobby that works for you. It's really nice to say, okay, like, yes, I'm going to commit, and what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, I love it.
That was absolutely awesome, Kelsey. We've had such a great time chatting with you. Where can people find you on the internet, on socials, your website, this kind of thing? Where can people find you? And your wonderful writing.
KelseyMulvey.com is a great place. That's my website. Or on Instagram, I'm KMulvs, KMULVS. And you could probably just find my byline anywhere. I don't know. I get that a lot, that people are always just like, there's a story you wrote. So you could probably find me on the internet if you look hard enough. Yeah.
Amazing. Well,
Lovely.
we'll link all of those things.
Yes.
And
we look forward to your first cookbook.
We can't wait for your
thank you.
Wait for your first cookbook. Yeah. And with that, we will say thank you so much. We have had an absolute blast. We hope you have too. And our sign off.
Yeah. Toodles. That was our interview with Kelsey Mulvey. We had a blast. Hope you did too.
But before we go, we want to share this week's celebrity hobby. Drum roll.
Did you know Sydney Sweeney is a car mechanic?
That is so cool.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome? Yeah,
I love that. Not only
restored her old car and everything. Yeah.
Wow. And that's a wrap.
I've been Pete.
And I've been Kayla.
Rate and reviews wherever you get your podcasts. It makes us much easier to find.
And follow us on Instagram at howihobby.
Did you know we also have a newsletter?
I did. Subscribe for new episodes and behind the scenes chat.
See you next time.
Toodles!
How I Hobby was written and produced by Kayla Lean and Pete Falconer, with music and editing by Pete Falconer, artwork by Laura Walsh, and animation by Kayla Lean. If you'd like to be featured on the show, email us at howihobby@gmail.com, follow us on Instagram at howihobby, or sign up to our mailing list at howihobby.com.